Say your name.
Rick Marshall.
Can you hear him? No. Turn it up.
Turn it towards you. Talking towards the microphone.
Rick Marshall.
Technical difficulties.
Always happens when the rear falls off, right? Can you say your name, please? Say your name.
Sharon Worley.
You hear her? Alrighty then.
Test.
The person who is going to answer the question first is going to be decided by a coin toss. Anybody behind me, look out. Call it. Somebody call it. Heads or tails? I don't care who calls it. Call it.
Heads.
Mr. Marshall, you go first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just information. Okay, this is instructions they gave me, but being time for each person get 3 minutes to answer a question. Okay, and 2 minutes for rebuttal, and 30-second warning before the 3 minutes is up. Okay, don't throw nothing at me. This is my first time doing this. I'm a picture taker, not a timer. Anyway, I got limited equipment here, my regular watch and my phone. So that's what I'm using. Alrighty? So feel free, if I'm doing something wrong, just yell it out and say, Cliff, you're doing something wrong.
No yelling.
Well, so I can hear you. Talk so I can hear you if I'm doing anything wrong. Okay, all right.
I got it better. Tap him on the shoulder gently. No yelling. Yeah, no, we want to keep this as civil as possible because this is for informative purposes. All right, hang on. I'll give you the mic back, I promise. We want to get to know the candidates, right? I know who I'm voting for. Chances are some of you know who you're voting for. Chances also are some of you don't. And that's what's important about this. For those of you who don't, tonight is the night really to make up your mind because, as I said before, early voting starts Saturday. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I see another candidate. You're not getting out of here. Get up here. Come on. We want your name and the office you're running for, and please face the audience.
Angela Bello, candidate for Nye County District Attorney.
There you go. Wait. Oh, you want the picture. I love this. All right, what else did you want to say, class?
This is for the candidates. Your 30-second warning is just going to be 3 fingers. This is what I was told to do. Don't ring no bell, don't make no noise. Just give you 3 fingers. That's it. Yep.
And at this point in time, I would like to turn the microphone over to Geraldine Ahrens, who will be asking you the questions.
Okay, the first question is for Rick Marshall. You won the coin toss. How long have you lived here and or worked for the Nye County Sheriff's Department?
I've been a resident of Nye County for 27 plus years. I've worked for the Nye County Sheriff's Office during that time, the entire time in a full-time capacity as Deputy Sergeant, Chief Deputy, and my current position, Assistant Sheriff.
Ms. Worley, the same for you. How long have you lived here and or worked for the Nye County Sheriff's Department? I have lived in Nye County since 1965. Lived in Pahrump since May of 1966. I have never worked for the Nye County Sheriff's Department. In what capacity do you work for the Justice Department, I believe? The Nye County Justice? I'm sorry, please say that again. You do work for the court system, though, do you not? Yes, I do. But that really wasn't the question. I volunteered as a reserve deputy from October 15th, 1975 until February of 2003. I volunteered as a special investigator for the District Attorney's Office from January of 2003 until April of 2009, when I was hired on as a full-time employee, and I still am a full-time employee. As an investigator for the Nye County District Attorney's Office. Thank you. This one is for Mr. Marshall. We'll start with you. What schooling and training have you had that makes you uniquely qualified for the position of sheriff?
I have a bachelor's degree in public administration from Nevada State College. I have an associate's degree in criminal justice from the Community College of Southern Nevada, an associate's degree in paralegal studies from the Paralegal Institute. I have attended the Northwest University School of Police Staff and Command. I have acted as the assistant county manager for approximately 18 months. For the past 25 years, while working with the Nye County Sheriff's Office, I've been in a supervisory capacity of either sergeant, chief deputy, or assistant sheriff. I've attended numerous schools, over 10,000 hours worth, dealing with everything from personnel administration to FEMA, emergency management, to resource allocation, leadership qualities, high impact teams, how to manage law enforcement agencies, budgeting, fiscal administration, internal and external audits. And I think the thing that uniquely qualifies me is I've been there and done that. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Vernon, same question for you. What schooling and training have you had that makes you uniquely qualified for the position of sheriff? I have an Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice from the Community College of Southern Nevada. I graduated Phi Delta Kappa. Nevada Police Officer Standards and Training, Basic, Intermediate, and Advanced. I'm a firearms instructor, have been a firearms instructor for the Central Training Academy in Albuquerque, a 90-hour course. An NRA firearms instructor and a firearms instructor for the Highway Patrol, the state of Nevada. I've completed the Tactical Response Team, Central Training Academy, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 40-hour course. National Peace Officers Association, Governor's 20 honorable mention, firearms on 3 different occasions. State of Nevada Private Investigators License, number 45. Interviewed and interrogation winning combinations. Informant development, pharmaceutical diversion, many interview and interrogation courses. The normal DUI stuff, Western State Sexual Abuse seminars. I have over 120 hours in that. Conference on White Collar Crime, Supervisor Certification Program for the Department of Energy, which is a 52-hour course. Instructor Certification Program from the United States Department of Energy, which is an 80-hour course. Managing a training program certification. Curriculum Development Certification, Basics of Job Task Analysis and Job Task Analysis 2, 80 hours. Operation Security and Operation Security Certifications, which is 70 hours. Certification and Completion, National OPSEC. That was 40 hours plus about 5 years. Threat Research, Counterintelligence Training Phase 1 and Phase 2, an 80-hour course, and worked approximately 6 years in that field. Automated Information Systems Security, Introduction in Automated Information Systems, Security Advanced Certification, 55 hours. That's all of the computer security and alarm systems. ComSec, Distribution and Accounting, Physical Security Systems, 70 hours. Personal Security Correspondence, Derivative Classification, Classified Matter Protection and Control, Security Awareness Coordinator, 40 hours plus 5 years. Site Safeguard Security Plan. It was a 40-hour course in preparation to revise the Nevada Operations Site Safeguard Security Plan. Vulnerability Assessment, Fundamentals. Tactical Intelligence.
Thank you, Ms. Murray.
And I'm sorry, I had about 2 pages left.
Okay, the next question, Mr. Marshall. The Sheriff's Department has a low retention rate. What do you see as the main cause?
I don't know who provided the information on the low retention rate, but we've been tracking our retention rate since 1997. And for the past 3 years, starting with 2011, our retention rate was 87.32%. 2012, it was 91.55%. 2013, it was 94.33% for an average of 91.7% for the retention rate. I queried the International Association of Law Enforcement Planners to see what similar agencies around the nation had in terms of retention rate. Their retention rate was lower than ours. It averaged around 80 to 85%. So whoever made the determination that our department has a low retention rate was misinformed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Murray, do you have anything to add?
Well, I'll only add this, and it doesn't really seem to fit, because I really don't have any figures on what the retention rate is, since I don't work for the Sheriff's Office. Usually, when there is a retention rate problem, the source is bullying, favoritism, people feeling that there's unfair practices going on, or they're looking for a better job, and they find it, so they move.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, the Knight County Commissioners are proposing a Peace Officer Advisory Review Board. And according to reports, the review board will have no authority and will follow the recommendation of the internal investigation. Do you support this review board, and why or why not?
As your question is worded, it states that according to the reports, the review board will have no authority. I do not support a rubber stamp board. It does no good to the citizens or to the Knight County Sheriff's Office to have a rubber stamp board. The purpose of review boards is to factually and objectively review the data given to them and then make recommendations for it. We have included citizens in our review boards for the past 4 years, and out of those review boards have come recommendations. Some of those recommendations have been adopted in policies. Some have been reviewed and went back to the person that recommended it and explained why we could not do it. So as your question is worded, I do not support rubber stamp boards, no.
I looked at the question in kind of a different light, and I didn't take it to be a rubber stamp board. I took it to be the board that the county commissioners are trying to put together at this point, which wouldn't be a rubber stamp board. And yes, I am totally for that, that advisory review board. I've always believed in honest, transparent, comprehensive policing, and the truth is actually paramount in this. No matter which direction it falls, the integrity of the Sheriff's Office should be impeccable.
My next question refers back to the last, and I will ask it. If a citizen review board were established and would hear the full results of an internal investigation of an officer accused of an illegal act or misconduct, and the board would have the authority to make recommendations on punishment, would you support that type of review board?
This question goes to the heart of the matter. Unlike the previous question, which stated the review board will have no authority and will follow the recommendation of the internal investigation, This board, under this question, is not a rubber stamp because they would have authority to make recommendations. They would hear the full results of an internal investigation, and they would have authority to make recommendations. In that instance, it is not a rubber stamp board like the previous question, and yes, I would absolutely support that type of board. Thank you.
Yes, I would. I prefer having a review board that would not only hear the results of the internal investigation, but one that would conduct investigations of its own and present a documented recommendation. Okay, and the next question. In the news recently is the protest in Ferguson, Missouri. If a protest of that magnitude were to occur here in Pahrump, how would you handle the situation, Mr. Marshall?
Protests by themselves are not a problem. You can have a 1,000,000-man march and not have any illegal conduct, and the protest will go off peacefully. The right to assemble, freedom of speech, those are rights that we all have. Those are rights that we in law enforcement need to make sure are protected. So if a protest of that magnitude happened here in Pahrump without any illegal activity, there's no need for law enforcement to do anything except monitor the situation. When it gets to illegal activity, then law enforcement gets involved to protect the rights of the innocents who are having their property or themselves damaged or injured. In that instance, we have many mutual agreements with the different varying law enforcement agencies here in Nevada and on our bordering states. So we are well prepared to handle those type of incidents. And it comes down to communicating with the protesters and the people that are in charge of the protest. It comes into pre-planning with them, setting up limits, letting them know what their corridors are, how we're going to handle it, and meeting with them to ensure that there's no damage or injury to property or citizens. Thank you.
To tell you the truth, in Nye County, I really don't foresee having this problem. However, we have had a problem with civil unrest many times at the Nevada test site, and pre-planning is absolutely paramount. However, when you have an incident like a shooting that takes off and absolutely goes south, there's no chance, no time to pre-plan with those people. You have to pre-plan and exercise what you intend to do and what your protocols are going to be way ahead of the game. That being said, when something like this happens, immediate information is absolutely necessary so that people understand what's going on. In the Ferguson event, no information came out on any kind of a timely basis. Here, we would immediately have a PIO talking with people, and we would put other law enforcement on alert, and we would try to take care of the problem before it starts. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Marshall. Currently, an officer accused of an illegal act or misconduct may or may not be investigated. Given the public's perception of sweeping these incidents under the rug, so to speak, and never hearing of them again, how would you regain the public trust for these instances?
One of the things that helps with that is the citizen review board that the county commissioners are proposing. The Citizens Review Board would hear about these conducts. They would inquire as to whether or not they're being investigated, so they would ensure that they are not swept under the rug. By doing that, by having open and honest communications and having the citizens involved, then you start to build on that public trust. The public trust goes both ways with the sheriff's office and with the public, and by having citizens involved, they will be able to see what the openness is and the accountability is, and that things are not swept under the rug. So a long way toward that will be the Citizens Review Board. And again, it has to be a Citizens Review Board that is not a rubber stamp. It does you no good to have something rubber stamped, because you're going to lose the faith and trust of the citizens if you do that. So having open communications through that Citizens Review Board will go a long way to reestablishing that trust. Thank you.
You know, I really do agree with everything that Rick said. I do have one thing that I want to add to that, and that is the Citizens Review Board has to be triggered. And right now, we don't have triggers in the document. The triggers have to be a citizen's complaint, a deputy's complaint, the sheriff's complaint, something has to start the review board. If nothing starts the review board, then we'll still have things that are swept under the rug. So we have to be very careful how we put our review board together.
Okay, Mr. Moore. Mr. Marshall, there is a perception that certain officers use their position in the department to intimidate some of their colleagues and the public. How would you investigate these rumors or allegations?
The perception that officers use their position to intimidate some of their colleagues and the public would be a perception. If somebody wants to bring it forward, it'll be investigated. Sometimes it's investigated by our own agency, sometimes it's investigated by an outside agency, whether it's through human resources or they contract out to a different agency. It could be the Attorney General, it could be the Nevada Division Investigation, or it could be the hiring of a private firm to do the investigation. But it all starts with making aware of the situation, whether it's observed by a member of the agency or whether a member of the public brings it forward either to the sheriff's office or to somebody in Nye County government. Unless we're aware of it, we can't investigate it. That's where walk-around management comes in to play. You're involved, you talk to people, you go out to the public, you have your citizen advisory boards, you have your community meetings, you make yourself accessible to the public, you're open to what the public is going to say, you take it seriously, and you send it back down to be investigated, whether it's internally or you bring in somebody externally to do the investigation. Whether it's a simple rumor or whether somebody puts it on paper, you investigate it. You don't just let it get swept under the rug. Thank you.
Every investigation will follow established internal investigation protocols. And in addition, I envision the Citizens Review Board will conduct an independent investigation. I do plan on implementing lapel cameras, which will be recording continuously during each shift, excluding sensitive areas, of course. After the conclusion of the investigation, the review is conducted, and the person then is either cleared or adjudicated, and the public would be informed at that time.
Okay, and referring to the previous question, would you make the results of the investigation public?
To the extent permissible under existing labor laws and the union contracts? Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Worley?
Yes. Only after the investigation is completed. And either the person is cleared or adjudicated.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, what is the investigative process used when hiring new officers? And do you feel it is thorough?
All of our people that go through hiring meet with what we call background investigators. One of the courses that we teach that I'm certified to instruct is called the Background Investigation Course. It's certified through the state of Nevada. The investigative process starts when someone fills out an application. The background investigator looks at the application and makes a determination if it's filled out correctly. Are the addresses listed? Are they full? Are the phone numbers there? Are there ways to contact people? Did they follow the instruction? That's the first step in the investigative process of hiring someone. The next step is they take the physical fitness exam as mandated by the state of Nevada. If they pass that, they go on to a written test. The written test has a 70% criteria. It's a 100-question test. If they pass that, they go on to the oral board, which is a panel of 3 officers that asks a series of 20 questions. It's a 70% to pass that. If they pass that, they go into the background investigation. They meet with the background investigator. They go over the application line by line. That's the applicant's day to correct anything that they want to add to the applications. They then go into the background investigation itself, where they go out, they talk to neighbors, they talk to employers, they talk to the schools that they've attended. They do a very, very thorough job in contacting everybody and anybody that is associated with that person. Once that's complete, they then are asked to submit to a computer voice stress analyzer. Some people call it a lie detector. There's a 4-page questionnaire that they fill out. That questionnaire is then compared to the application that they filled out. Once they take the computer voice stress analyzer, if there's any problems with it, they meet with the examiner and they go over the test results. If it's something that can be retested, they're retested. If not, it ends there. If they pass the CVSA, they're then given what's called a conditional offer of employment. Before you can do a psychological or medical test, you have to give a conditional offer of employment. Once they accept the conditional offer of employment, they then are given the psychological test. If they pass the psychological test and there's an opening, they are scheduled for the medical test, which involves typical vision, chest x-rays, things of that nature here. From there, they're put on a hiring list, and if they score high enough and a position is open, they're then given a start date. It follows the same hiring process that is done throughout the state. And yes, I do believe it's adequate. Thank you.
I'm not going to go back through everything. However, I do think that there is a chance here that we could change some things around and save a little bit of money. After the application comes in, the person should be pre-tested to make sure that he can pass, or she can pass, the physical fitness agility test. If they can't pass that physical fitness agility test, then none of the other things need to take place until that agility test is passed. That would save the county quite a bit of money.
Deputies are required to pass a physical each year as part of their continued employment. Does the department pay for these physicals? And if so, do you feel it is appropriate?
The department does pay for it. It's required by the Nevada revised statutes. So the department doesn't have a choice in the matter for their annual physical testing.
Thank you.
Yes, that's true.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, have you ever been convicted of a crime? If
No.
so, please explain. Thank you. Ms. Worley, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
No.
Mr. Marshall, do you support the open carry of weapons into public meetings such as the Pahrump Town Board or Nye County Commissioner meetings? And why or why not?
One of the reasons that I am the endorsed candidate from the Nevada Firearms Coalition, and of the 2 candidates running for office, I have the highest rating from the National Rifle Association, is my stand on the Second Amendment. I absolutely believe in your right to protect yourself and your family, to carry firearms, to own firearms. We are founded in that notion, and I absolutely believe in it. And the answer to your question is, yes, I do support the open carrying of weapons. Obviously, the town board or the governmental entities have a right to regulate that, but I absolutely support it. Thank you.
And yes, I believe open carry should mean anywhere in the state of Nevada as what is intended by statute. Legislatures have placed caveats on certain locations. And let me say this. The NRA survey had two grades. An AQ, which is what Mr. Marshall has, which means that he answered the survey questions correctly. And an A-, which means that the candidate is solidly pro-gun and has voted for legislation in favor of the Second Amendment. And that's the designation I have. Now, why he got the endorsement from the state, I don't know.
Mr. Marshall, are you or are you not in favor of lapel cameras for all officers?
Absolutely in favor of lapel cameras for officers. We are researching ways to fund that, to get servers for them, the lapel cameras themselves. The servers would be what the downloaded data would be stored on, but I am absolutely in favor of it. It protects the citizens, it protects the officers, it protects the county. So yes, I am absolutely in favor of it. Thank you.
I've spoken about it several times. Obviously, I'm very in favor of lapel cameras.
Mr. Marshall, in your opinion, do you think the different ethnicities of Nye County are represented within the Sheriff's Department? If yes, please explain, and if no, please explain why and what you would do to correct it.
Currently, the different makeup of the Nye County Sheriff's Office includes African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanics, Caucasian. It includes Native Americans. Now, of those, we are underrepresented in a couple of the areas. Our recruitment targets minorities so that we can bring our ratio up to represent the different ethnicities of Nye County throughout the county. But we do have the different races represented, yes we do. We would correct it, attempt to correct it by targeting those in our job corps that we do at the high school, that we do at the different fairs. And we would work diligently to make sure that all races are represented equally throughout Nye County. Thank you.
I too would actively recruit peace officer candidates from ethnic groups represented in Knott County. But I do believe that the recruits must meet or exceed the established post and NCSO standards to become employees.
Mr. Marshall, what changes will you make if elected?
One of the first changes is going to be appointing Rick Dugan as my assistant sheriff. Rick Dugan has over 20 years of full-time law enforcement experience. He was the DARE officer, he worked and the grade officer. He's currently a patrol sergeant. He also has the uniqueness of owning a construction company in the private sector, so he's familiar with budgeting, human resource management, and management of different resources. Some of the other changes we're going to make is we're going to reorganize the sheriff's office to put more officers in the street. We're going to enlarge our reserve program. We're going to have citizen advisory boards and business advisory boards in each of the communities. We're going to have a community liaison officer, and that officer will be there for you should you have a need to address the criminal justice system. There's many times that people get frustrated coming up to the sheriff's office or the district attorney's office or the courts. Community liaison officer will guide them through that process. They will also be handling the neighborhood watch programs. They'll be handling community awareness seminars. They'll be helping out at the senior center, giving presentations to the seniors. The other thing we're going to do is establish accountability and transparency throughout the sheriff's office. We believe it starts from the top and trickles down all the way to the bottom. We're invested in our communities. We believe in being in our communities, and we're going to make Nye County a great place to live, work, and play. And I don't need 100 days to get this done. Thank you.
I will immediately begin an internal audit of programs, positions, policies, and procedures and processes to determine where we are and ensure we're moving toward agency standardization to ensure our budget dollars are being used in a manner conducive to producing the most efficient results while continuing to meet our peacekeeping and service responsibilities. I will remain within the budget and explore and secure alternate revenue streams. I will coordinate new memorandums of understanding with sister agencies and emergency response forces and renegotiate MOUs which are out of date that place the county in a position for possible liability issues, i.e. Esmeralda County's use of our detention facility beds without an overreaching MOU and the movement of Nye County deceased persons across county lines. I will change the culture of the Nye County Sheriff's Office by treating the employees with respect and implementing a clear, concise, unbiased set of policies and procedures which will be administered equally and without prejudice. I will ensure everyone in Nye County receives the public safety and law enforcement service they're paying for regardless of their address, economic status, political preference, religious practice, age, racial or ethnic origin. I will plan for and budget for annual and known events and involve myself and my staff in those events, active community policing. I will be available to you and your law enforcement needs. I will retain the Citizens Action Team, rebuild the Reserve Deputy Program, and continue the re-implementation of the Cadet Program, as well as assisting emergency management and building Citizens Emergency Response Team. I will ensure the Nye County Sheriff's Office works with citizens to curtail criminal activity to ensure safe communities. Crime fighting must be a constant, continuing effort. Preventative measures and mitigation strategies will be developed, agreed upon by Nye County citizens and law enforcement, and then trained and implemented. I will work with existing community groups and form and train additional groups to develop and implement grassroots law enforcement strategies. Professional, competent, qualified law enforcement officers and support staff are the essence of your sheriff's office. I will ensure that your deputies and support staff are adequately and regularly trained, consistently meet or exceed state standards. Training dollars for both in-house and outside training will be focused toward maintaining basic requirements set by state statute and specific department needs determined through a needs analysis process. Deputies will have a career path. Well-trained law enforcement personnel and support staff are our greatest asset.
one final question here. Do either one of you have a rebuttal for the other's statements? Do either one of you wish to speak?
Concerning the NRA ratings, I have a letter from Tanya Mataska, and it says, as the former chair of the NRA Political Victory Fund and executive director of the NRA Institute for Legislative Action, all grades given to political candidates have meaning. An A and an AQ are equivalent. An AQ means a candidate does not have a voting record but has answered all the questions on the NRA questionnaire correctly, meaning that he or she is stating their support of all NRA positions on the Second Amendment issues. An A minus means a candidate has not answered all questions correctly, but has some problems with the NRA position. I hope this clarifies the NRA PVF grades. Tanya K. Mataska. Thank you.
Ms. Worley, do you have any rebuttal to anything that Mr. Marshall said? No, I don't. Okay, we will be taking a 10-minute break, and at which time, people, if you need to, you can go to the back and write questions on the 3x5 cards. And as time permits, when we come back from the break, those questions will be asked of these two candidates. Thank you.
How are you? You doing what? Hey, this is awesome. I may need a.
One of which signed their name, whom I will not announce, that those 5 personal questions are ripped up and in the trash can, which I told you to begin with. There would be no personal questions. They have been removed. Okay? That's the first thing. Second thing is, this is my lovely husband, Vanna. No, I'm kidding. This is Robert Hansen. He is our moderator for the second half of the question and answer period, at the end of which he will be handing the microphone back over to me because I'm so entertaining.
Yeah, don't count on it. Alrighty, since Rick, you answered. Now that we're all sterile, okay? Since you answered the questions to begin with, we'll start with Sharon, if that's okay with you. Okay, first question.
That's fine.
I'll just take them in any order here. First question is, why 100 days?
You want to read that again?
Why 100 days?
It had a good ring to it. No, actually 100 days in the Department of Energy community is a test phase, a beta phase, and that's where you put your program together to see if it's going to work. At the end of that 100-day period, you do an audit on what you've done, and if there's any problems with it, you readapt and revise and start over.
Mr. Marshall?
We don't use the Department of Energy standards. We use our own standards. We don't need 100 days, and we are constantly reassessing. Any program we implement, we are constantly reassessing it. to make sure that it's on track for our stated goals and objectives, to make sure that we are reaching out, doing what needs to be done to make sure the program's a success. And again, we don't need 100 days. We're going to start from day one. We know what needs to be done. And myself and Rick Dugan have mapped out a plan and a roadmap, and you're going to see effective change immediately. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Marshall, are you willing, I guess this is both of you, are you willing to show the documents that show all your education, certifications, and post?
Absolutely. Anybody is welcome to them if they wish to see them. I will scan them and email to them. I will send transcripts from my colleges. I will send my Nevada Post certifications. Nevada Post certifies at the basic, intermediate, advanced, supervisory, managerial, and executive level, executive being the highest. I have an executive certificate. I also will email any of my documents to anybody that so requests. Or they can come to the office and look at them.
I will do the same.
We're just going to skip, I'm going to read this question, but you already answered this question in the thing. It said, could you please explain the NR ratings and scores? We already covered that ground, so we're just going to get rid of that. Next question, Ms. Marshall, Mrs. Worley, for the start. If the FBI were to investigate you, would you pass a background check?
Yes, I've passed a background check for 35 years. I can still pass the background check. Not only that, I have passed a counterintelligence background check, which is also a lie detector test.
Mr. Marshall? Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, absolutely, I would pass it. When I wrote our grant for our Buffer Zone Protection Act, I had to get clearance to go into sensitive areas at not only the Nevada test site, but at the Tonopah test site as well. I currently hold a clearance with the Nevada test site, and if I could not pass it, I would not have access to our NCIC terminals, which I do have access to, so absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Marshall, when a deceased body is found, who calls the public administrator and what's the procedures afterwards?
The officers on scene, when they're done with their investigation, they may call them before when they're doing the investigation to get them up and running, but it's the officer on scene who's in charge of it that calls them, and the public administrator comes out and then takes control of the possessions. They don't take control of the body. The sheriff's office takes control of the body and turns it over to the coroner.
Ms. Worley?
I'm afraid I'm going to have to answer the question the same way. It's up to the public administrator then to find next of kin, and we do that, we help them do that at the DA's office.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Worley, the unions are a large part of the budget. How do you how do you plan on the budget with the union taking so much of the budget?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
It's kind of hard to read. How do you support, what kind of plan are you going to have with the budget in order to meet the union needs? It says if the unions take up so much of the budget, how are you going to handle that?
The unions, all the unions are negotiated through the county commissioners and the DA's office. I don't have anything to do with the CDAs.
Mr. Marshall?
The union is not what takes up the portion of the budget, it's the personnel. Currently, the Nye County Sheriff's Office spends about $6.5 million in salaries. They have about another $4.5 million in benefits and about $800,000 in what they call add-ons. That leaves about $1.1 million for service and supplies. So personnel costs are roughly 91% of our budget, and they're continuing to rise as our labor force gets older, as evidenced by our retention rate. The deputies' pay goes up along with the other personnel in the sheriff's office, the non-sworn. So it's going to continue to rise. We're an aging department, which is good because you get all that experience. We don't have a high turnover rate. We have a high retention rate, which is what you want. Negotiation of the contracts is done through the Board of County Commissioners, through their lead negotiator, which is the district attorney. My plan is to have a representative of the administration back on that board. Currently, the Nye County Sheriff's Office administration does not sit at the negotiating table. My plan is to get them back at that negotiating table. Thank you.
All right, I guess this one's more for Mr. Marshall, so I'm going to start with you. If you received 74% of the endorsement from the NCLEA, wouldn't you be using that as part of your campaign? And if so, why did you dismiss the fact that your opponent got the endorsement?
I'm not dismissing the fact of any endorsement. I did not seek the endorsement from the Nye County Law Enforcement Association. My understanding was during the primary I had received an email from one of their board members asking if I would be willing to attend a meet and greet at Petrick Park, and I told them absolutely I would. I would arrange my schedule so that I could meet with the voters and talk about my platform. Never received an answer back from them, nor did I receive an email inviting me to participate after the primary as the other candidate. I did send a letter to the Nye County Law Enforcement Management Association asking them to set up a debate between myself and my opponent. They declined to do that and issued me an endorsement.
Ms. Worthy, would you like to respond?
I wasn't invited to the park either.
Ms. Worley, what is your position on a paid fire department in Pahrump?
I'm sorry, I don't work for the fire department. I work for the district attorney as an investigator.
And I don't write the questions, I just read them, so. Mr. Marshall, would you like to respond?
I was here when we had the volunteer fire department. It has since evolved into the paid fire department. That's an issue when the town board is dissolved and the county absorbs the services of the town. That's an issue that the district attorney and the board of commissioners will have to deal with. Sorry, Brian, but that's going to be on your shoulders. Or Angela Bello, should she be elected.
I think that was an endorsement.
I was on the volunteer fire department at one time, but that was been eons ago.
Okay, Mr. Marshall, why is it officers take patrol cars home and seen around town using for personal errands?
If they're using them for personal errands, we certainly want to know about it. As for them taking them home, this is a very large valley and we are understaffed as it is. In the last 4 years, we have lost 26 positions. 9 of them have been supervisors. If we have 3 officers on shift and they're handling something in the south end of the valley and a home invasion or a shooting or something occurs where you need an officer immediately, we don't want that officer having to drive all the way to the station, check out a vehicle, make sure that it's got enough gas in it to get to your house. We would rather have it so that that officer who lives in your neighborhood can go out to his car and drive right to your residence and cut down on the amount of time, because literally seconds count when it comes to protecting the public.
Ms. Worley?
Would you read the question again?
It's, why is it that officers take their patrol cars home?
Officers take their patrol cars home because the establishment allows them to take them home.
And here's another question. I think we kind of covered this with the initial questions. How will a civilian board be chosen? Also, will a civilian board be involved in a situation internally at the NCSO? I think we already pretty much answered this question, so. But just like I said, I don't write them. Oh, this is a good one here. If we have a Bundy Ranch in Nye County, how would you handle the federal police agencies? So, who was going first? I lost track. Ms. Worley, you want to start?
The federal police agency, I don't believe they are a federal police agency. But let's just say the federal folks will be stopped in their tracks. We will protect our citizens. There will be no taking of property or moving of property without the proper court documents, and those court documents must be within the jurisdiction of Nye County.
Mr. Marshall.
A few months ago, we both attended a breakfast. Some of you in the audience were at that breakfast. One of the questions put forth dealt with federal intervention. And my opponent had said that there's nothing she can do if the feds come in. So I'm glad to see that she has come around, because I have said from day one, there will be no federal intervention in Nye County without full due process of law. It is simply a matter of the sheriff stopping them in their tracks. I have worked with Sheriff DeMayo. We have stopped the feds in their tracks before, and it is a sheriff's responsibility to protect your rights and to adhere to our constitutional principles, not just in their words, but in their actions. And we will stop them again. Thank you.
You know, I'm kind of tired of that comment, because that's not really what I said at the breakfast. What I said was, I wasn't really worried about the federal government coming in, because the federal government has to go by our laws. What I am worried about is the United Nations coming in, because all they have is a treaty to go by, which actually trumps our Constitution, if we agree with that. If we agree with that treaty and that treaty is ratified. That's right, the treaty... No, that's very, very true. And if you'd like to look it up, I would really appreciate it if you did that. I'm not worried about the federal government coming in, because we can fight them off. We can fight them off legally and without a fight.
Okay, I'm going to go a little off the cuff here. Regarding, yes, would you like to rebut? Would you like to say something?
She went first, I went second.
Sure, okay,
third.
Go ahead.
Some of the people in the audience, Brian, you were at the meeting, you know exactly what was said, and no treaty is going to trump the Constitution. The Constitution is the law of the land. This country is founded on that principle. This country is founded on that principle. It is the sheriff's responsibility to ensure your rights are protected, and again, to adhere to our constitutional principles, not just in our words, but in our actions. And again, there will be no federal intervention. I don't care if it's BLM, I don't care if it's the United Nations. They will not come in and trample your rights when I am your sheriff. Thank you.
I did not say, nor will I ever say, that I will welcome the United Nations here. I won't. I will fight the United Nations just as I'll fight the federal government if they try to take over our lands, our property, or ourselves.
I'm just going to do a follow-up here on this. A lot of people are not really understanding the Bundy Ranch situation. They think that the Fed's going to come in and kick you off your private property. However, in this case, this was federal land. There was a private citizen on federal land. The BLM belongs to the United States government. So, with that said, don't the feds have a right to come in and protect that land? So nobody's going to allow the feds to come in and take away your house or your own property. But we're not talking about private property here.
We're talking about land that is under the protection of the federal government that belongs to the state of Nevada.
The best guardians of our public lands are Nevadans, not the federal government. And we as Nevadans need to make that clear. Whether it's BLM, whether it's the park rangers, whether it's the Department of Education SWAT team, I don't care. The best guardian of Nevada's public lands are Nevadans, and we need to take the lands from the federal government and give them back to the state to manage their lands.
Yes, we do.
Who went first last time? Okay, Mr. Marshall, what is your position on having a sheriff's posse? Kind of like Joe Arpaio in Arizona.
You know, we currently have many, many volunteers. We currently have our Sheriff's Auxiliary Unit, who do a fantastic job. Search and Rescue, who do a fantastic job. Our Reserve Deputy Program, as I stated in another forum, we recently have promoted one of our Reserve Deputies to Reserve Sergeant. He has 5 other people. It's going to double our current force. I am all for any type of volunteerism that gets more manpower to the Sheriff's Office. And a posse is one of the things that can be utilized. It can be utilized in disasters. It can be utilized in crowd management. There are so many things that a sheriff's posse can do to help out and help the citizens. And yes, I am for it.
And yes, I am for it, and my platform speaks and reeks of volunteerism. I believe thoroughly and completely and wholeheartedly in the volunteers of this county. And I feel that volunteers are our mainstay.
Okay, Miss Worley, this is for both candidates. The changes you each propose sound expensive. Where will the funding come from to hire more staff and do all the internal audits?
It's not difficult to do an internal audit. You just need an outline of what you intend to do. And the internal audits will be generated by a quality assurance team. That team will come from internal people inside the Sheriff's Office.
Mr. Marshall?
I don't want the fox guarding the hen house. When I do an internal external audit, it's going to be from people outside the Sheriff's Office that are going to audit it. It does no good for me to audit my own books. I want somebody for the accountability and the transparency that I've been talking about from the outside. I have talked to some CPAs, I've talked to accountants, I've talked to people in the community who are willing to step up, they have the expertise and come in and do those audits. The other things are going to be enlarging our reserve force. There's going to be a minimal cost involved in that. We pay workers' compensation fees for that. We're going to work hard at putting together the Sheriff's Auxiliary Unit with more members. Search and Rescue is going to grow. The reserves that we have now work in every aspect of the Sheriff's Office except dispatch, and we're going to look at getting some reserve dispatchers. The cost is going to be minimal to the taxpayer because we have to be cognizant of the burden placed upon the taxpayers. I've said from day one, government cannot tax its way to prosperity. There's enough taxes going on, and the citizens do not need any more taxes to pay for stuff that the government wants.
When you teach Black Belt, which is a QA program, it's all internal audit. That internal audit then meets a certain level. When you think you've got your internal audit done, then you go out and you hire outside people to come in and check that audit. Otherwise, it is enormously expensive.
I'm not hiring anyone. I've been talking to people who are willing to volunteer their time to come in to cut down on the expense. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use volunteers who are professionals in their field, much like the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. We're going to raise the bar. We're not going to circle the wagons. Thank you.
You know, I talked about that before when I was talking about doing an audit, and my opponent said, "Oh no, you can't do that." I think volunteers in every aspect should be used. It'll cut down our costs, and as long as they're professionals in their own discipline, we can manage to get the department accredited through using mostly volunteer help. I started trying to put that program together early in April. I talked to several people that said, yes, we would be interested, and we have been auditors in the past.
Let's not misstate what we were talking about. In the last debate, we were talking about accreditation, and my opponent had said she was going to use volunteer auditors. The Commission on Law Enforcement Accreditation assigns the auditors. They don't let you get a pick and choose. They don't let you say, Mr. Rick Osborne, you were an auditor in Ohio, so we're going to use you. The Commission on Law Enforcement Accreditation assigns those auditors. You don't get to pick them. That's what we were talking about.
That's very true.
So
That's
let's
exactly
not misstate what we talked about in the last debate.
But we were also talking about using volunteers. And when you first start out and you first get your audit put together so that you can have an outside auditor come in, it doesn't matter. As long as you have accredited auditors coming in to do your immediate audit, your secondary audit for accreditation, yes, they are assigned by that board.
Okay, Mr. Marshall, do you have to take Homeland Security money? And if so, does that make you liable? And do you have to follow orders?
Do we have to take Homeland Security money? Absolutely not, we don't. Does that make us liable? No. And when I'm your sheriff, no outside agency is going to give orders to the Nye County Sheriff's Office to do anything that will infringe upon any of your rights or cause us to change the way we operate or cause us to deviate from the Constitution.
I totally agree with your statement, and I feel exactly the same way.
Okay, here's a good one to end on here. If an Ebola type of disaster hit Pahrump, what role would the Sheriff's Office take? Be afraid! Okay, Ms. Roy, would you like to be first?
Well, at this point, I don't believe we have a pandemic plan. But if in fact we did, the Sheriff's Office role would be outlined in that plan and negotiated. The WHO would probably come in and take over most of our management. And so down the line, yeah, we would fall in line with everyone else, trying to keep our people segregated, and we'd have a management plan.
Tell people who the WHO is, in case they don't know.
World Health Organization.
Mr. Marshall?
Nye County does have part of its emergency services plan under Director Vance Payne. It does have a pandemic plan. The role of the Nye County Sheriff's Office would be one of support. The Nye County Emergency Services would take the lead on it, and they would contact state and local agencies. I'm sure our Assemblyman James Oscarson and our Senator Pete Goycochea would both be immediately involved, along with our federal senators, should an Ebola outbreak occur here in Nye County. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm supposed to hand this mic back to my wife, but I don't see her. Anybody see her? Oh, here she is.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit him upside the back of his head. At this point in time, again, okay, I went outside, I smoked to have a cigarette because the signs say no smoking allowed in the building. And for those of you who thanked me, that's us, for doing such a wonderful job, I want to thank you for being a voter again. What? I'm not done yet! No! Oh my God! Okay, anyway, now, hey!
3 minutes.
No kidding.
I'm the timekeeper. Don't make I'm the sound man.
That's true, he is the sound man. Which reminds me, this is Mike Leidy, he is my personal Elvis. Okay, and if anybody is interested in hiring him, he is for hire. He provided this beautiful sound system. This is my little bell that decided not to work at the last minute, so we had to break out a corkscrew. We thank the bell. I would like to thank Quickie radio station, KWKI 106.9, for providing us with Geraldine Ahrens, our lovely moderator. Please stand. All the other media stations who happen to show up, and Sharon, I don't know your last name. I know, you're not going to tell me. This is Sharon, she's the Quickie camera person. Chances are, I know you. I know everybody by face, and you guys probably know me too, especially with the flaming orange hair. My 3 minutes are not up. Even if I don't know you by name, and obviously by this time you know my name. Again, we are the administrators of the Nye County Voter Education Caucus. We are a nonpartisan group. We hope to see you again in 2 years at the next silly season cycle. And at this time, because Mr. Rick Marshall won the coin toss, he gets 3 minutes to stand up, take this microphone out of my grubby little hand, and tell you why you should vote for him.
I can do it from here, right?
Stand up!
I watched the board. I've already been warned how much it will cost me if I hit this microphone.
I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak before you today. I want to thank Marjorie and Robert Hansen for sponsoring this. This is about you, the voters. It's about you having an opportunity to talk to and discuss the issues that are important with you, with the candidates. You get to see firsthand the knowledge that the candidate has about the position. We candidates do this to earn your vote. You expect and should demand candidates to come to these debates. I've been to every debate and I've been to every meet and greet. I also want to acknowledge my wife, Kristen. We've been married for 27 years. We've been together for 29. Without her continued support, I would not be where I'm at today. I'm a proud husband, a proud father, and a proud grandfather. We've raised our 4 children here in Nevada, our 2 daughters, Jenny and Kristen, and our 2 sons, Matthew and Eric. Matthew and Joey. For the past 27 plus years, Joey is going to go, oh my God. But for the past 27 plus years, it's been my honor and privilege to serve you, the citizens of Nye County. I believe in serving people and keeping our communities safe. I came into this job with the commitment to keep people of Nye County safe. And we do that by reducing the crime rates, by putting prevention programs in place, and partnering with the public and other agencies to make Nye County a great place to live, work, and raise a family. A little bit about my background. In the 27 plus years we've been here, my wife and I have been invested in every community we've lived in. Whether it is working with Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, raising funds, sitting on boards like No to Abuse, working with Nye Community Coalition, or coaching Little League or coaching at high school wrestling. We're invested in every community because we believe that's what it takes to make the community strong. As I stated earlier, I have an executive certificate from the Nevada Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission. I have a bachelor's degree in public administration. I have 2 associate's degrees, one in criminal justice, one in paralegal studies. I'm a graduate of the Northwestern School of Police Staff and Command. I have over 3 decades of full-time service as a peace officer. I have served at every level in law enforcement, from a detention officer to a patrolman to an executive administrator. Additionally, I spent approximately 18 months as your acting assistant county manager, which gave me an insight above and beyond the sheriff's office. Community investment begins with fundamental responsibility of government, investing in and providing for the safety and security and the welfare of its citizens. To do that, we must build responsibly, we must have a vision. I've authored over $22 million in grants that have helped fund personnel, equipment, remodeling of buildings, etc. This has reduced the burden on the taxpayer. As your elected sheriff, your safety and security to our communities and to yourself will be a top priority with our administration. Our mission involves the responsibility to properly exercise care, to treat people with dignity and respect, to use common sense in our decision-making process. But most importantly, as I have stated time and time again, it is to adhere to and defend our constitutional principles, not just in our words, but in our actions. I understand the diverse law enforcement needs across Nye County because I have worked in every community in Nye County. I have been there, I have done that. I look forward to meeting with you, to earning your support, earning your vote, and serving as your next sheriff. Thank you and God bless.
I'm waiting for the thing that, you know.
I want to thank everyone here tonight, especially Mr. and Mrs. Hanson for putting this together. And you, sir, for being the timekeeper that you always are and the photographer that you always are. As I look across the room tonight, I see a lot of people that are looking forward to a lot of changes in the Nye County Sheriff's Office. That's what we're here to discuss, whether we want to have change or whether we don't want to have change. If you don't want to have change, you like things the way they are, then by all means vote for my opponent. If you want change and you want honest, unbiased, fair law enforcement across the entire county, please vote for me. I've lived in this county for 50 years. Well, it'll be 50 years next year. I've never been in trouble. I have absolutely nothing to hide. I would like to have a sheriff's office that feels exactly the same way. That it has absolutely nothing to hide, that it's totally transparent. If you feel the same way, please vote for me. I plan on living the rest of my life here in Nye County, and I'd like to have the best police service possible, and I'll strive to give that to you over the next 4 years. Again, thank you for coming. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Mr. Rick Marshall, Ms. Sharon Worley, we could not have had this event without you, and I would like to thank you. Again, everyone have a great evening.